What's up, guys? Barry Gaming here, back with some more Heroic Expedition, and today we're gonna finally get you guys a tier list. This tier list isn't gonna be PvP specific, PvE specific, any specific game mode. This is going to be more of an overall tier list, so you gotta take some things with a grain of salt. A lot of this is going to be aimed towards the end game, but by knowing which hero copies you want to save now for the end game, you won't make mistakes, because of course some of these heroes you're going to have to use to make 6 stars to build other heroes. So you have to weigh your pros and cons, figure out who you want to use as food, who to save copies of, and then maybe, eventually you're going to build everybody optimally. You're going to have every single hero completely maxed out. It's going to be a long journey, but hopefully this helps you out. So let's jump right into it. So as we start this, I want to make sure we first give a pretty big shout out to our Strength in Numbers guildmates who came up with this list. Prophet, Subi, and Spider King. They had a lot of time and a lot of experience on the beta, so they have a lot of knowledge to pass your way, and hopefully we can get you guys kind of with like the top heroes you want to build overall. Now, some of them might have more uses earlier game compared to end game. This is closer to an end game build. And you know what we should start off with first is August. So August is probably one of the best late game heroes you'll ever see. Although, if you're early game, you might not want to use him. Sometimes he's a liability. That shared damage buff that he does can potentially kill off your weaker heroes. It just depends on what enemies you're facing and how they're dealing damage. I would say if we're talking about early game, he's maybe a B tier, maybe even C tier. But if we're talking purely end game, we are going 100% with SS tier. Like above the rest, he stands alone and no one else competes. Now, once we jump down to the S tier, we're going to start adding heroes like Hercules. Hercules does some really amazing damage. He has a stun, he has a counterattack. They're all really cool abilities that make him very, very useful. He's probably one of the top heroes you should go for, and probably the first dark hero you try to build. Granted, his copies are a little hard to get, but you can farm them in the wishing fountain, the prey fountain there. So that is something you guys gotta remember. He is really, really good. The other one, pretty much like his brother, is, where is he? I need to find my man Olaf. So we're gonna have to do a little scrolling back and forth here, guys. I apologize. But we do have Olaf coming up next, basically his light version brother. So he's gonna be dealing damage, and he's also gonna be taunting everybody. There's at least 2 allies left in the battlefield. When he dies, he will resurrect as well, which is a really cool thing. And at the end of every round, if a hero has a buff, the hero increases their armor level by 1. There's a lot of really cool interactions. He'll restore HP. He just has a lot of really, really, really good utility. Definitely a hero you should consider building at the very early game. So the next one I'm actually going to put in the S tier as well, and that one is going to be Alex. So Alex did recently get I believe he got a nerf, but Alex's mainstay is he gives a shield on his active to the entire team. That's very, very strong, really good. He has a chance to restore health when he gets hit as well. End of round, if the hero is shielded, he's going to increase his armor levels. There's a lot of really cool things with him. Some people kind of bump him down a little bit, but I think overall he should still be in that very top tier, S tier. And yeah, I think he's just such a really, really good hero. The next one up is going to be Meryl. Meryl is another really strong light faction hero. You guys will kind of get a little hint here. Light and dark hero is very, very strong in the end game. She has abilities that deals damage to all enemies. It'll deal double damage to people above 75% HP. She has attack bonuses. She has a ton of cool things. She has weakness to the enemies as well, which is really, really good. Overall, she's a very solid hero. Definitely consider picking her up because she can really, really dish out the damage. Now the next one is going to be a hero that is actually the first one that's not a light or dark hero, which is interesting. I just realized that. Next up is going to be, if I can find him, there he is, Karthus. Karthus is a very, very strong hero. He is from the Chaos faction. He's going to deal damage plus bonus true damage based on the the target hero's HP, which those type abilities really end up doing tons of damage, and also restores HP. His basic attack increases the hero's attack as well, so even if he's doing a basic, that just means he is powering up. And then every 5% of this hero that has for every 5% HP this hero has, so staying close to higher HP, he's going to do more damage, get more attack, things like that. So he is a very strong hero. Definitely consider using him. But besides that, that's kind of like the top 2 tiers in my opinion. They are by far the strongest, like by far. There could be a couple in like the A tier that I do think you could probably bump up to the S tier, but are they worth it? I don't know. It's hard to say. First off is definitely going to be, where is she? Sarah. I need Sarah. Where are you, my girl? Sarah is essentially one of the coolest looking heroes in the game. Why can I not find Sarah right now? This feels really bad. There she is. There's Sarah. So Sarah is essentially the dark version of Michelle. She's going to deal damage equal to 170% attack to front row enemies. Of course, all these numbers, they go up as you get into the ascended levels, and a 30% chance to silence them, which again, silencing, especially in like PvP, is very strong. Whenever an ally casts a skill, it will also deal 25% damage to the same target and has a chance to silence as well, and later levels, and then against attacks against those silenced enemies will have a chance to stun them. So she is a CC powerhouse, kind of. She has a lot of really cool things about her. I personally hope I can build her, but it might take a little bit. The next one is going to be Michelle. So Michelle is super strong. She has tons of healing for your team. She has the ability to resurrect your team when she falls below a certain number of health and give them a certain number of HP. Her healing is AoE based healing plus AoE damage. She has a chance to remove control effects from her. Makes her good in PvE, PvP, pretty much everything. She doesn't really have that many downsides to her, so definitely consider building her. Next up is going to be Morgana from the Dark faction. So Morgana summons a meteor shower against all enemies. So again, another hero that does a lot of AoE damage, deals damage equal to % attack, and has a chance to disarm them. So that's kind of like a CC effect right there. And whenever an enemy casts a skill, Morgana has a chance to cast Forbidden Retaliation, dealing damage equal to 50% of attack and reducing their attack. So it's kind of like a really cool synergy that they have. It does get a lot better when it gets powered up as well. And then before each round, this hero has a 15% chance to steal energy from debuffed enemies. That's really good. She can just suck all the energy to her. She can use active over and over and over. Plus, it's removing energy from the enemy, which potentially could use active. So all in all, that's like is a really cool combination. Next up, we are going to go with Musashi. So Musashi is a really cool warrior hero. He has the ability to deal damage to a single target with the lowest HP, causing him to bleed. There's a bunch of different interactions, but then the skill also deals damage equal to 100% of his attack to all targets. So he specifically goes for his main attack against the lowest HP and then also hits everybody else, which is a really cool interaction. He has things that give him like armor break. He has abilities that allow him to store HP when he kills an enemy. Although it's not that great of a heal. I think at the very top one, it's like 20%. So it's decent. It's nothing like, I would say like God tier, but it can serve you pretty well at the very least. Next up, we are going to jump and grab another light hero. Where is our kitty cat? There she is, Irene. So I've never been a fan of Irene, but she is still a very good hero. Deals damage against a single target and causes them to bleed. Of course, they're also going to be able to deal, if she hits with a critical hit, she's going to bleed for even more. It's okay. She increases her crit every single round. She has for every 25% HP that she loses, she increases her crit damage. So she's a big damage dealer powerhouse in my opinion. She's very strong, deals a ton of damage. Just really goes to town with it, but yeah, not too bad. Next up is going to be, where is this goofy man? There he is. So we have Saruman. So Saruman, again, another light hero. You guys kind of finding a trend here. If you want to use your faction scrolls, Oh, for light or dark, trust me. He has the ability to deal damage to 3 random enemies, has a 30% chance to grant 3 random allies an arcane blessing that allows them to hit, like, have a guaranteed crit chance, so it's really good team builder. Whenever an ally lands a critical hit, he also gains energy, so there's a lot of crit synergy with this hero. And of course, if this hero is not incapacitated by any crowd control effects at the end of the round, it heals a random ally for 50%. So he's a mage, but he kind of has a heal that also is a nice support. So he has a lot of utility to him. He's not like your main carry of a team, but he's a great support to kind of build around your team. So as far as light and dark heroes, that kind of covers them in the A tier. What we want to do now is we want to move to the other factions, because there's a couple really good heroes in other factions as well that will do very well for you. Number one, we're gonna have to start pushing these to the left here. My bad. Let me get these going in this order so you guys can see it. I'll have a giant tier list at the end that you guys will be able to click in the link in the description as well, which should help you guys out. I only have so much real estate on the screen, so I apologize. Next up, though, is, I don't know how to say his name. I want to say Aris is his name. He is in the Forest faction, deals damage to all enemies, has a chance to entangle them, which is really cool about the Forest. A lot of them have a chance to entangle, so they have a lot of synergies with each other. For every entangled unit on the battlefield, he gains a shield equal to 6% of his max HP. That, of course, goes up. It also has the ability to remove all control effects from him as well. It's a really cool ability. And then at the beginning of each round, there's a 10% chance to entangle enemies whose speed is lower. So that is really cool. He has a lot of good utility. In my opinion, I think he's more of a PvP hero than maybe PvE, but a lot of the campaign where you unlock a lot of features is kind of PvP-esque. The only true PvE are like guild bosses, the actual bosses themselves. A lot of everything else is pretty much 5-on-5, something like that, where, you know, there's a lot of utility, but that is something to remember. Next up, though, we have probably one of the best healers in the game and kind of one of my favorite heroes, and that is going to be Matthew. So Matthew, I don't know why you're not sliding for me. Matthew, right there. He is amazing. I have yet to get a copy of him, but he has an ability to, on active ability, heal everybody based on their HP. So it's a percent-based HP, not an attack value HP. That is really solid. So even if he is like one of the tankiest heroes and doesn't have like a ton of attack, he's going to be doing tons of healing to them. He has chances to increase healing on his allies, and of course, when he dies, he has a heal for his entire team as well. So you can do some pretty interesting shenanigans with him and Michelle, where she can resurrect him when she finally drops below, and then he can heal again. And it's really cool interactions there. I really like them. The next one we want to look at is Cynthia, I believe. Yes, where is Cynthia? There is Cynthia. Okay, so Cynthia is another Forest faction. Deals damage equal to 163% of attack to front row enemies with a 28% chance to entangle. Again, entangle hero is really strong in PvP. Any type of CC right now in this game is going to be really premium value. Most games start out in their infancy having CC being the biggest focus in the game, and then eventually people deal enough damage that CC doesn't matter anymore. But she also has the ability to grant all allies a shield based on her HP, which again is really nice. And then her basic attack has a 15% chance, going up all the way to 30, to feed energy to her allies. This is what I talked about in the support hero video. Feeding energy, very good. So moving on from there, the next one we're going to go to is Cassandra. Where are you? Cassandra, there we go. Pretty much her Chaos faction equivalent. Same look. She deals damage equal to a certain percentage attack to 3 random enemies and gives White Deer Whisper for 2 rounds. That upon gaining energy, the target enemy receives 20% less energy. So you're basically giving a burn, you're dealing damage to them, you're taking energy away from them. Again, another hero that synergizes with energy denial. That is going to be really strong. Anybody who's played any other idle gacha games, usually some of the energy denial or removal heroes or giving heroes, they're very strong no matter what time of the game you're playing at it. Her basic attack is also going to default to attack target. This attack does not trigger crit, block anything else essentially, or gain any energy from the target enemy, which is cool. And then at the end of each round, she also gives White Deer's Blessing to allies. Does some damage, some energy feed, some HP. Really cool interaction. She's a very good hero, so if you get copies of her, make sure you hang on to them. Next up in Chaos as well is going to be Margaret. So this is one of the ones I said was a really good early game kind of damage dealer for you. Margaret has an innate ability to deal damage with her active and then heals herself for 35% of the damage dealt. Whenever she loses more than 25% of her HP, she burns targets. She just has some really, really cool abilities. And of course, whenever a burning enemy dies, she will also heal. So she has a lot of sustain. She's kind of like that. She's one of the heroes that's good to build as like your first mainstay hero overall. Very, very strong, very good. Definitely like her. Next up is probably one of my favorite heroes right now, and that is going to be Sylvia. So Sylvia is who I am kind of building as one of my main damage dealers right now. Not a ton of unique abilities, but she does have an AoE deal all damage and gains 15 block bonus. Her AoE damage is like top tier, but the really great thing is upon blocking, she will heal herself based on her attack value, and she will counterattack for 100% of her attack. It's a really cool ability. Really like it. It also, whenever she is attacked, she reduces the block break rate by 8% and goes up as well. She's a really good hero. I seem to get a lot of copies of her, so you guys might want to consider building her as well. And yeah, I mean, overall, that's pretty solid. Last up in the A tier, though, is going to be Erica. So Erica is a very solid hero as well. She launches a flurry of attacks on the enemy with the lowest HP, dealing damage that's true damage. And another hero here that deals damage based on the target's max HP. Those type of abilities are really good because they scale very well. Her basic attack just basically hits the solo target with the lowest HP. Nothing great there. But then one of her passives is upon taking fatal damage, this hero restores 20% of max HP and deals true damage equal to 50% of her attack to a random enemy. Anything that's like a ability that, like, you know, oh, you died, wait, just kidding, I'm not dead, I'm back, is pretty solid. It's a pretty good one there. I think that's it's definitely something that she could be better, she could be worse, but she still has really good solid sustain. Now we're gonna move down to the B tier, and the first one we are going to talk about is, oh, actually I think I missed, yeah, I actually messed this up, sorry guys. That's Riser. What I had before right here, sorry, I had the wrong image. They're almost the same. Give me a break. This one has the full red. This one's Riser right here. So Riser deals damage to all enemies and poisons them for 3 rounds. He gains bonus control resistance, which is good. And then whenever this hero resists a control effect, it restores HP up to 50% of the attack and gains 6% attack bonus. So he has some survivability built in. Again, a lot of these heroes, you'll notice they have their own self heals. They're self sustain, they keep themselves alive. It's something that is very, very helpful, very useful, and very, very good. Next up, we have our Overwatch hero, Genji. Genji of the Dark Faction. He has probably like one of the longest skill abilities you'll ever read in game. But he deals damage plus 8% of the target's max HP. So again, another hero that does that, and gains Night Shadow. During this period, Genji gains 30% of crit bonus and a base attack, a random enemy and nearby enemies dealing damage equal to 80% of an attack. So it's like he's got, his abilities are like a mouthful to go over. When he crit, he heals for 20% of attack. So it's not a big one, but he does heal. And at the beginning of each battle, he gets armor levels increased. And whenever an enemy is defeated, it reduces an armor level. So he starts out with like +5 armor level. Every time an enemy dies, it does tick down a little further and a little further. But yeah, he's a very solid one. As far as light and dark heroes, I think that's all of them minus a couple. We'll go over them a little bit later, but they're more like the food heroes of the light and dark faction. That kind of covers them. Let's go back now to the Forest faction, and the first one I want to grab is going to be Alistar. So Alistar is really cool. He has an ability that deals damage to back row enemies and drains their attack. So he basically removes the attack from them. When there are at least 2 enemies in the battle, whenever an enemy is killed, it restores 10% of this hero's max HP and increases its attack and crit chance. And then upon death, it deals damage up to 25% of attack to all enemies. So again, you kind of get a notice here towards the end, a lot of these heroes are not as good. They're not as useful. They have some uses, but they still need to have some sort of heal built into them. Next up, though, is going to be Cilia. Cilia is a really good single target damage dealer. She has ability to heal, so basic attack heals this hero for 30% of the damage dealt, and basic attack steals 6% of the target's attack. Again, not much to talk about for her. She's she's pretty basic, nothing to go into too much. Next up is going to be Matilda. Matilda is another one that heals this hero based on like the damage she deals. She has the ability to entangle, which is really good as well. You'll find that from a lot of heroes in this faction, that they all entangle, they all kind of synergize. Speaking of another one that does entangle and has synergy with other forest heroes is going to be Mallory. Mallory is pretty good as well. She has her ups, she has her downs. Again, a lot of these are heroes you don't need to prioritize building in the B tier. They're okay. They're not anything amazing. They're decent to say the least, but kind of at the wit's end here. It's kind of like they're heroes you can build early game if you need to, but in reality, anybody below SS, S, and A tier are ones you probably don't want to focus on. We're going to kind of go through some of these other heroes in the other faction in a little faster format, just because they have some advantages. There's really not much going into them that much. So we're going to show you some other ones that belong in the B tier. We do have Berea is one of them. We have Carol as another one. And actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just get most of them out on here so you guys can see the rest of them and what tier they belong in. We do have Adela. I think that's her name. Adela is, pardon me if I miss any of these names up. I kind of mess them up a little bit. Melissa's cool. She deals burning damage to everybody. She counterattacks. She has some decent abilities attacked onto that as well. And where's the big guy? Hold on. Muspel, yeah, Muspel, there he is. He's right there. He's another one that is a decent hero to build, but not someone you really want to prioritize building. The rest of the list, I'm just going to pre-populate as we kind of talk about the rest of this. We got Harris. We do have, is that Vesa? Is that her name? I forget her name. I think her name's Vesa. Man, there's so many hero names in here, but some of them are good, some of them not so good. And then you kind of get down to the bottom tier. Oh, oops. I was wondering why I was messing that up. All these guys go in the B tier. My apologies. Everybody here is the B tier. There we go. B tier. We got the B tier on lockdown. So we have to move on down to the C and D tier. Let me just adjust a couple things for you guys here. Okay, so the C tier, again, this is one I want to make sure is kind of, we reiterate, technically August could probably go way down the bottom here if you're talking about early game. If you're not, then yeah, he can be decent. He can be decent. One thing I guess I just missed as well is in the S tier or A tier, Irene should be here. Irene should definitely be at the top there. She does some good damage. I thought I dragged her out. Maybe I made them sick. Oh, you know what I did? Good old Barry. Always messing things up. That's why use this for a description. Wait for the final screenshot at the end so you know exactly who it is. Nicole is technically the one that is in a lower tier in my opinion. Doesn't really do much. She does of course have like energy drain, but it's not really good enough to be useful. As far as light and dark heroes go, there's probably the good majority of these down the bottom that just are not that great. They have some abilities that can potentially heal. Lee can do some stuff where, you know, he can add weakening to the targets. Is it that great? No, not really. Not really. Couple of the archers down here, not the best either. They are decent to say the least, but again, they're not heroes you really want to be building at all. They don't do enough damage. The only archer, so to speak, you want to build is going to be Sylvia. Let's see, who else? We got you down here. We'll put you down here. You guys are kind of like the bottom tier. And then at the very, very bottom, we're going to have even more heroes that are just not great. The water faction, the ocean faction version of Matthew, not good at all in my opinion. We have one of the other light heroes coming in here. And then we have these guys. Essentially, these are like the food heroes of the light and dark faction in my opinion. All of them are not that great. They're decent, but overall, they could use some more work. Melissa, we're going to throw down here. Yeah, this is pretty much kind of how it wraps up at the bottom of the list. Again, wait for the official screenshot. There's really no point going into a lot of these heroes. They just don't do all that much. But yeah, hopefully this kind of helps you guys out to who you should be building overall. Again, mainly you want to be focusing at this top part of the list right here. This is the premium heroes you want to save. When you get to the bottom of this list, those are the heroes you want to use as the food heroes to build other ones. So hopefully this helped you guys out. In the description down below, make sure you check that out. I'm going to put a link to an image file that is going to be this entire tier list. Again, big shout out to the Strength in Numbers Guild from the closed beta. That has been really cool, fun. I got to spend a little time with them on the beta as well. They're very knowledgeable. We'll try to pass along more information, but just remember, one last thing, this is a tier list for overall performance. It's not a PvP tier list. It's not a PvE tier list. It is a tier list to show you what heroes you can use as 6-star food and what heroes you need to save. So hopefully help you guys out. Hit that subscribe button. I think we can get to 5,000 subs really quick, guys. Let's do it. Let's get to 5,000 subs, and I'll see you guys next time.